Hello everybody. This is me. I'm still here. I don't know if this is a super weird angle to be filming at or not, so if it is hard to understand, I'm sorry. My art teacher asked me to try and film a tutorial for her, so that is what I'm going to do. So today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a pair of gloves. I suppose you would call these mittens more like, and the way that our art class made these was made them out of sweaters, like old sweater material. So this here is one pair. The way she had us do it was that we had to make each piece out of a different color fabric, and that was just to conserve fabric, and so for that situation I'd understand it, but personally I would say try and use at least one color for the inside, one color for the outside, and then make this one color at least, and then try to make them match. So let's start with making our pattern. So the first thing you want to do, and the pattern part for this is very simple, just get a piece of paper and put your hand on it. And then you need something to write with. I'm using this crayon. And basically put your hand completely with all your fingers together and just trace around it. Draw a line where you want the wrist of the glove to be at. I want it to be at this mark on my arm that I have from wearing rubber bands on my wrist all the time, so I'm just going to mark that here, and then I'm just going to draw around my hand with the shape of the hand that I have, like this. And that's not a super even shape, so if you really want it to be even, you can go roughly in and even it out if you feel like that's something that's necessary, but because these are gloves like this, the accuracy of it doesn't matter that much. So then you're going to mark back on it and times 2 because you want 2 of these. Then you're going to have another sheet of paper, and on this side you are going to do basically the same thing, except for that you have your thumb out in this one, and put it out about, since you're using stretchy fabric, you don't need to put it out all the way because then you'll end up with a lump of fabric right here in the final glove. So put it out about like 45 degrees to your hand, and then doing the same thing with where you want the end of it to be, just sort of trace around it and make your tracing a little bit wide. It doesn't need to be super tight to your hand shape. And then you have sort of a mitten shape right there. Now you're not going to just want it to be like this, because if you sew this to the back side, you're not going to have a full thumb. And so based on pieces that I already have cut out, you want to take your crayon and from the bottom of the thumb just sort of come across like this, and you're going to cut it out like this around the top part, and then draw the same thing again. Take your crayon and draw another line from here, and then just cut out this part. And then for each piece you're going to write top, front, times 2, because, well, for this piece you want it because it's the top where your fingers are going to be. For this piece you're going to write bottom, front, times 2. And this is a rough guesstimation, but that's basically what you're gonna do. Then you're going to take each of these pieces, you should have 3 pieces by this point, and you're gonna cut them all out. You're gonna cut out this piece on your line, you're gonna cut out this piece where I'm tracing with my finger, and you're gonna cut out this piece where I'm tracing with my finger. Obviously you should make one hand for this piece and then a different page drawing for this piece. Otherwise they won't be the right shape. And after you've cut these pieces out, you're going to want to take them and pin them onto your fabric before you cut it out. Because this is knitted fabric, it's going to be a lot harder to draw on it, so you want to take your actual pieces, paper pieces, and pin them onto the fabric. And I don't have any fabric here to show you how to do that. But make sure that you pin it on fabric that is folded so that there is 2 layers of fabric underneath your pattern. Make sure that there's 2 layers and that they're folded. And make sure that if it is folded, you have the right sides together, because you want to make sure that you get the opposite pieces. If you don't have enough fabric to fold, then make sure that you have, when you cut out, each piece needs to be cut out twice. So when you cut it out the first time, make sure that the part that has the words on it is facing up, and then when you cut it out the second time, make sure that the part that has the words on it is facing down. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with gloves that look like this. These gloves have the thumbs on the same sides. That means that they can't be a functional pair of gloves. They don't work. You have 2 right-handed gloves here, and if you did it the other way, you'd end up with 2 left-handed gloves. That's not great. That's not what we're looking for. What we are looking for is something like this. This here is some that hasn't been sewn together yet, but is in pieces right here. It's got all the pieces cut out. So this right here is your back piece. It's cut out completely. This here is your top front piece. That's this shape. And this is your bottom front piece. And this is just showing you how to pin them all together. This is your wrist part, but you don't need that till later. Make sure that everything is right sides together. That is the side that you want to be on the outside and for everyone to see. They all need to be touching. The first thing that you're going to do is take your 2 thumb pieces and pin them together just here along the thumb area. So you're going to pin them together along here, along this side. Both of them, you only need to pin it once. And then you're going to just sew along here, and then these 2 pieces will be connected. And then you're going to take the part that's like glove shaped, like the round part of the glove, and pin it to the back piece, and then you're going to sew around this part. Make sure when you're sewing around this part that you tuck this thumb part in so that you don't get the thumb caught up in the seam here, because that won't be a good thing. Then when you finished sewing it, you're going to end up with a glove piece that looks, let me just find this pin. You're going to end up with a glove piece that looks like this. This is what that looks like. But then there's a phone ringing downstairs. I'm not going to answer it. Then you are going to need to put on the cuff. Now this part is going to be a little bit counterintuitive to what we just were doing, where we were making sure that our right sides were always touching, but you'll understand why this works in a minute. So you're going to need a cuff piece. Now either you can cut off the cuff of a sweater, like this piece right here, that's already had a cuff on it because you want a stretchy piece like this, or you can just take another piece of the sweater and make a tube. When you're making the tube, you're going to want to measure your wrist circumference here, like the measurement around your wrist, or the measurement around the widest part of your hand, depending on how stretchy your fabric is. So that would be across, but like where your the lowest knuckle of your pinky is to where your lowest knuckle of your thumb is, because that's the widest part of your hand. So you're going to want to measure that circumference, and the circumference of that is all the way around is going to be what this way you want of your fabric to be. Then you're going to cut a fabric out this way, and probably about 4 inches long, but it can be shorter depending on how long that you want it. And then you're going to sew up the side, making sure that the right sides are facing together. then you're going to take the seam of this part and match it up with the seam on this side or the seam on this side. Either way, it just makes it look a little bit neater. And you're going to take the side that you don't want people to see and put it in like this. So it looks like you're putting it in the wrong way, but it actually is the right way. And I'm just pinning it like this so that you can see what I mean, because you're going to sew around here, sew it all the way around so that there's still a hole that you can get your hand through, and then you're going to turn it right side out like this, and voila, now there's the nice side showing at the same time as another nice side. It's shut because I pinned it that way, but you're not going to want to in your real life. If you've got a frayed edge up here, roll it over and hem it like that while it's still down. Then going up here again, when it's up here, unless you want it to be flipping around all the time, I would suggest basting it to the top part here using a thread of the same color as this part. You want to baste it again all the way around. Make sure you don't sew it shut so that it stays up. A basting stitch is just a straight stitch with longer stitches so that it's not as tight and it'll allow for more stretch. If you don't know how to do a basting stitch with your machine, then just sew a little stitch here and a little stitch on the opposite side, just 1 or 2 stitches with your hand needle, and like do 4 of those in like equal places, and that should work. And so if you followed all my steps correctly and I explained them well enough, you should end up with a nice pair of gloves. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any suggestions for me on how I could do it better next time, thank you so much. I'm working with a new camera, so if the angle's weird, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye!